Alex Wallace had grown accustomed to being in control. In the realm of business and life, he was never taken by surprise. As he lingered in the soft light of an elegant restaurant, relishing a fleeting moment of peace, a subtle voice disrupted the fragile reality he had built around himself. "Excuse me, do you happen to have any spare change?" He raised his gaze, anticipating the sight of an unfamiliar face. Before him stood a small girl, perhaps no more than 7 years old, her deep brown eyes fixed on his with an intense resolve. At that instant, Alex was completely unaware that this seemingly innocuous question would unveil a hidden history and transform his life in ways he could never have imagined. Alex Wallace occupied his familiar spot in the softly illuminated, elegant restaurant, where the gentle murmur of dialogue intertwined with the faint sound of silverware and the soothing notes of a piano. It stood as one of the rare havens in the city, a sanctuary where he could savor his meal in tranquility, far removed from the unyielding pressures of the corporate realm. Leading one of the most influential technology companies in the nation, his existence revolved around an unending rhythm of discussions, deals, and figures. There simply wasn't a moment for anything beyond that. This evening unfolded just like any other. A perfectly cooked steak was just set before him, accompanied by a glass of deep red wine. He hardly registered it, his thoughts drifting, absorbed in the details of the recent acquisition his company had wrapped up earlier that day. His universe was centered on tactics and dominance. In this realm, everything unfolded as expected. At least that was his belief. A subtle silhouette glided toward his table, halting just at the edge of his peripheral sight. Initially, he dismissed it, thinking it was merely a server or a passerby. Yet, a gentle voice pierced the subtle hum of the restaurant. "Excuse me, do you happen to have any spare change?" The utterance caught me off guard, feeling entirely incongruous in this environment. Alex blinked and lifted his gaze. Before him stood a young girl, perhaps 7 years of age, her long dark brown hair cascading over her petite shoulders. Her expansive, rich brown eyes locked onto his, revealing a blend of subtle resolve and uncertainty. She donned a pastel pink t-shirt, its slightly worn appearance lending it a sense of character, yet it remained impeccably clean. Alex's initial thought was that she had lost her way. This was not the sort of environment where children roamed about seeking handouts. His second instinct was one of doubt. A child pleading in a restaurant like this felt utterly incongruous. He placed his fork on the table, his eyes narrowing with focus. "What is the location of your parents?" The girl paused, subtly adjusting her stance. "I just need some change," she repeated, her voice gentle yet resolute. Her manner of speaking carried an unsettling quality. She exuded a calm determination, unlike the usual desperation he had seen in many others asking for help. Her gaze drifted away from the meal before him, as though her desire for sustenance was entirely disconnected from her plea. It was truly remarkable. "Take a seat," Alex instructed, motioning toward the chair opposite him. The girl paused, her delicate fingers clutching the edge of her shirt. For a fleeting instant, he entertained the notion that she could flee. But then, she settled into the chair, her posture rigid. "May I ask for your name?" "Lily," she replied softly. "Very well, Lily." He inclined his body just a bit. "What brings you here? And please don't try to convince me it's merely for loose coins." She averted her eyes to the table, her fingers delicately outlining an unseen design on the pristine tablecloth. She pondered, weighing the extent of her revelations to him. After a lengthy silence, she murmured, "Because I need to save my mom." Alex experienced a sudden heaviness in his chest. He had anticipated everything except for that. His inquisitiveness intensified. Yet, beyond that, there was an ineffable quality in her delivery that resonated with him, leaving him at a loss for words. "Rescue her from what?" he inquired with caution. Lily swallowed hard, her voice a mere breath against the silence. "She is currently receiving care in the hospital. We lack the funds necessary to cover her treatment expenses. I considered that by reaching out to others, I might gather sufficient support." Alex observed her intently, looking for any hint of dishonesty. However, there was nothing. She was telling the truth. He was able to perceive that, and the revelation struck him with an intensity he hadn't anticipated. She entered one of the priciest restaurants in the city, not out of hunger, not with intentions of theft or disruption, but in pursuit of the unattainable. She was determined to rescue her mother. After an extended period, Alex Wallace found himself at a loss for words. Alex remained still, observing the young girl before him. Lily gazed at the table, her delicate fingers gliding over the linen cloth, anticipating his reply. Her words lingered in his thoughts. Her presence was not for her own sake. Her presence wasn't driven by hunger, nor was it due to a lack of a place to belong. She had come with the purpose of rescuing another. He had dedicated years to the boardroom, engaging in negotiations with some of the most formidable businessmen in the nation. He constructed a vast realm from nothing, shaping choices that influenced countless lives. In this moment, confronted by a 7-year-old girl who had entered a space that felt foreign to her, seeking assistance from unfamiliar faces, he found himself utterly unready. "What amount are you looking for?" he inquired at last, his tone steady yet resolute. Lily paused, her fingers resting motionless on the tablecloth. "I'm not sure," she confessed. "Quite a bit. Yet, if I persist in my inquiries, perhaps I can gather sufficient." Her response struck him with an intensity he hadn't anticipated. It wasn't the urgency in her tone that disturbed him, for there was none to be found. It was the serene determination. Her words flowed with a resigned acceptance of the challenge ahead, yet there was an unwavering resolve to pursue it regardless. He delved into the inner pocket of his suit jacket, extracting his wallet with a deliberate motion. He might have given her a few hundred right then, enough to create an impact if only for a short time. Yet, an unseen force restrained him. Providing her with financial support would be the simplest approach. Yet it failed to address the larger question that was consuming his thoughts. "Where is your dad?" he inquired, his eyes unwavering. Lily's demeanor shifted to one of steely resolve. For the first time, he noticed a spark of something resembling anger in her eyes. "It's just my mom and me," she replied briefly. "We can rely solely on ourselves." Her response revealed more than she might have intended. The manner in which she tightened her petite fists, her shoulders tensed, a subtle indication of her readiness for what was to come. Everything indicated a singular conclusion. Her father was absent from the scene, leaving a void in her story. Lily had come to understand that relying on others for assistance was futile. Alex took a deep breath, weighing his next words with precision. "In which hospital is she located?" Lily paused once more, yet this time, she scrutinized him with greater intensity. He observed her grappling with the decision of whether to place her trust in him. She likely devoted the entire evening to engaging with unfamiliar faces, yearning for mere fragments of compassion, uncertain if anyone would truly pay attention. "What makes you curious about this?" she inquired with a hint of hesitation. He reclined a bit, maintaining unwavering eye contact. "My desire is to assist." Lily observed him intently for a prolonged moment. "What is the reason?" That was a reasonable inquiry. He felt no obligation to be concerned. He might have offered her some cash, wished her well, and continued with his evening. That's what the majority would have chosen to do. Yet there was something about her, the manner in which she held herself, the reality that a child so young had to shoulder a burden far too heavy, that rendered it unthinkable to turn away. Rather than responding immediately, he delved into his wallet and retrieved a solitary coin, setting it down on the table that lay between them. It was a silver dollar, one he had held on to for years, more from routine than anything significant. "As a child, I was once told that often, the tiniest details can alter the course of everything." He observed her response intently. A single choice, just a moment, just a single coin. Lily cast a fleeting look at the coin, yet refrained from reaching out to it. Instead, she locked her gaze with his, probing for meaning. Then, as if reaching a conclusion, she inhaled deeply and murmured, "New York General." Alex gave a slight nod. He grabbed his phone, swiftly accessing the hospital's location. The location left much to be desired, and the feedback was bleak, overrun and lacking in resources. "Let's go," he urged, rising to his feet. "I will guide you to that place." Lily's eyes grew large with surprise. She quickly slid back in her chair. "No," she replied swiftly. "I am unable to accompany you." Alex took a moment, then knelt beside her, ensuring he didn't loom above her. "What's stopping us?" Lily surveyed the restaurant, a flicker of unease crossing her face, as though she feared the gaze of an unseen observer. "What if they prevent me from seeing her again? It has already been stated that children are not permitted to stay there overnight. That's the reason I had to part ways with her." Her words washed over him like a chilling tide. She hadn't merely arrived at this restaurant in search of money. She had come because she found herself with nowhere else to turn. Alex maintained a calm tone, yet within him, a turmoil churned in his heart. "He assured me that it wouldn't occur. I refuse to allow them to separate you from her." Lily hesitated before making a move. She gazed at him, as though attempting to decipher his thoughts, weighing whether she could trust him. At last, she offered a subtle nod. "Understood." Alex rose from his seat, gesturing to the waiter as he retrieved a handful of bills and placed them on the table. As they strolled toward the exit, he cast a fleeting look at Lily. She strode forward, her chin held high, attempting to project strength. Yet he could perceive the fatigue in her gait, the burden of all she had been shouldering. She entered the restaurant with the hope of finding some spare change, believing that was the sole way to assist her mother. Yet, unbeknownst to her, this evening had unveiled something infinitely more precious. She had discovered him. In that moment, Alex Wallace found himself making a quiet vow to his own heart. Regardless of the obstacles, he was determined to rescue them both. Alex stood by the car door, patiently holding it open as he waited for Lily to settle inside. She paused briefly, clutching the hem of her t-shirt, her rich brown eyes darting toward him, filled with doubt. He sensed that she had difficulty placing her trust in others, and he understood why. She had devoted an indeterminate amount of time to depending solely on her own strength. After a moment's hesitation, she took a step forward and settled into the passenger seat. Once the door clicked shut, she secured her seat belt across her chest, fastening it with meticulous attention. It was a subtle gesture, yet the manner in which she executed it resonated with Alex, revealing that she had mastered the art of caution in every facet of her existence, consistently ensuring her actions were flawless to avoid being a burden. He eased into the driver's seat, turning the key as the engine let out a soft purr, shattering the stillness around him. The city lights streaked by as they departed from the restaurant, yet Lily stayed silent. She remained rigid, her hands neatly clasped in her lap, gazing intently forward. Alex cast a fleeting look her way before redirecting his focus to the road ahead. "How long has your mother been in the hospital?" he inquired, maintaining a steady tone. After a moment, Lily replied, her fingers intertwining more tightly. "She endured illness for an extended period prior to that, yet we lacked the funds for medical care." Her responses stirred a potent mix of emotions within him: anger, sadness, an elusive feeling he struggled to identify. He had devoted his existence to a realm where challenges had answers, where wealth could remedy nearly everything. Yet here was this little girl who had been compelled to witness her mother deteriorate, powerless to intervene. "You mentioned they won't allow you to remain there," he said thoughtfully, selecting his words with care. "Where have you been resting your head?" Lily hesitated before responding. She gazed downward, her fingers dancing over the fabric of her jeans, her lips pressed tightly together. At times, she finally confessed, within the confines of her home. At times, that may not be the case. Her words wrapped around him like a vice, causing his fingers to clench the steering wheel even harder. He grasped her meaning without requiring further elaboration. She found herself in solitude, resting in any place she could find, as her mother lay confined to a hospital bed. He inhaled deeply, striving to mask the irritation brewing within him. "Are there any other members of your family?" "No," Lily said, shaking her head. It's only the two of us. That was precisely what he had dreaded. If anything were to happen to her mother, she would be utterly alone. There's no safety net. There's no one to intervene. And yet, in spite of everything, she had entered that restaurant tonight with her head held high, resolute in her purpose to take action. Alex found himself puzzled by the intensity of that thought's impact on him. He had spent years among individuals willing to do anything for wealth, who would deceive, betray, and scheme for even a small portion of what he possessed. And yet, here was this child, who had every reason to feel resentment towards the world, opting to stand up for another rather than herself. He cast another look in her direction. What is your age? Lily's voice was delicate. 7. Still in her youth, yet burdened with the immense weight of the world. Too young to wander the city solo, attempting to rescue someone when no one had ever come forward to rescue her. The remainder of the journey was serene. Alex sensed her occasional glances, as if she were still attempting to unravel the reasons behind his actions. He was at a loss for words with her. He understood that turning his back was simply not a choice he could make. As they arrived at the hospital, Lily let out a breath, her fingers tightly clutching the seat belt strap. The structure appeared even more dilapidated from a closer vantage point. The fluorescent lights buzzed intermittently above the entrance, while the automatic doors creaked softly as they parted to welcome visitors. Alex exited the car, pausing for Lily to follow suit. With a moment of uncertainty, she released her seatbelt and stepped out. As they approached the entrance, she unexpectedly reached out and grasped the hem of his sleeve, if only for a fleeting moment. It happened in an instant, leaving him little opportunity to respond before she released her grip. Yet it sufficed. It was sufficient for him to grasp that, in spite of all, she remained fearful. He remained silent on the matter. He continued to walk alongside her, entering a realm that was entirely foreign to him. A realm where wealth could not obliterate the truth of the struggles faced by individuals like Lily and her mother. For the first time ever, he realized that no sum of money could ever persuade him to turn his back on this. Upon entering the hospital, Alex was immediately struck by the pungent aroma of antiseptic mingling with the stale air that enveloped him. The overhead fluorescent lights emitted a faint buzz, illuminating the tired linoleum floors with a harsh, clinical light. This establishment bore no resemblance to the private hospitals he had encountered before. Those were immaculate, nearly opulent, where wealth afforded ease and subtlety. In this place, everything seemed to be pulled taut. The weary nurses at the front desk and the bustling waiting area, teeming with individuals seeking refuge, painted a vivid picture of the scene. Lily strolled alongside him, her petite figure gliding silently as she navigated the intricate labyrinth of corridors. She glided with a sense of ease, her movements deliberate, as though this was a routine she had mastered countless times. The idea of that sent another jolt of discomfort coursing through him. No child should ever have to face the challenges of a hospital by themselves. They arrived at a quaint chamber located at the distant end of the hallway. The door stood ajar, and within, the steady beeping of a heart monitor pierced the stillness. Lily lingered at the threshold, her fingers clutching the hem of her pink t-shirt. For the first time since she had approached him at the restaurant, a flicker of doubt crossed her face. Alex knelt beside her, bringing himself down to her eye level. "Are you all right?" he inquired softly. She acknowledged with a nod, yet remained still. He observed the emotions dancing across her face, relief at their arrival, fear of what awaited them inside, and a deeper feeling, one she was struggling to contain. Lily confessed softly, "She has no idea I'm gone. I wish to spare her any concern." Alex breathed out gently, sensing the heaviness of those words resting in his heart. This young girl bore a heavy burden, faced with daunting decisions and lacking a guiding hand. He longed to express that she no longer needed to face this challenge by herself, yet he hesitated, uncertain if she would truly trust his words at that moment. Lily inhaled deeply, then, without uttering a sound, crossed the threshold. Alex trailed behind her, his eyes quickly settling on the delicate figure resting in the hospital bed. She appeared youthful, far too youthful to be in this state. Her dark brown hair lay flat against the pillow, her skin a ghostly hue, and a profound weariness etched across her features, even in slumber. In spite of the 4 lines and the machines encircling her, she possessed a serene beauty, one that endured even amidst adversity. Lily moved toward the bed with caution, ascending onto the chair next to it. She extended her hand and softly brushed against her mother's palm. "Mother," she whispered gently. The woman stirred, her eyelids gently fluttering as they opened to the world around her. After a brief pause to gather her thoughts, a faint smile appeared on her lips upon catching sight of Lily. "Hey, darling," she whispered, her voice raspy. "You've returned." Lily gave a swift nod. Alex lingered at the threshold, sensing his alienation in a scene that felt foreign to him. But then the woman's gaze shifted, and the moment she looked at him, her expression transformed. Her smile dimmed, her breath hitching in her throat. Alex sensed his body tighten as a spark of recognition ignited in her weary gaze. He recognized her beyond this instant, beyond merely being Lily's mother. "Sophie," he murmured, his voice scarcely rising above a whisper. Her lips parted slightly, and for a fleeting moment, she appeared as though she might remain silent entirely. With a deep breath, she released it slowly and murmured, "Alex." Lily glanced back and forth, her brow furrowed in confusion. "You're familiar with one another." Neither responded immediately. Alex advanced cautiously, his thoughts swirling in a frantic attempt to comprehend the unfolding events. Sophie, the figure from his past, the one who had disappeared from his existence without a word. After all these years, she found herself in a hospital bed, delicate and weary, accompanied by a daughter who had been compelled to seek assistance from strangers. His offspring. The epiphany crashed over him, sweeping away his breath in an overwhelming rush. Lily belonged to him. Sophie averted her gaze, as though she found it difficult to look him in the eye. "I never imagined our paths would cross again," she whispered. Alex took a deep breath, struggling to maintain his composure. "I didn't either." A multitude of inquiries surged within him, each one vying for attention, eager to break free from the confines of his thoughts. What prompted her departure? What was stopping her from sharing that with him? How had she found herself in this predicament, battling through the challenges without a single soul to lend a hand? Yet, in this moment, everything else faded away, overshadowed by the presence of the little girl beside her, observing them with wide, curious eyes. Sophie's fingers gently wrapped around Lily's hand. "You didn't share where you went," she said gently to her daughter. Lily cast her gaze downward, a shadow of guilt passing over her features. She confessed that her intention was to assist. "I set out on a quest for financial gain." Sophie's eyes brimmed with an emotion that resembled anguish. "Lily, that's not something you can do. It's not wise to venture out by yourself." Lily was adamant. "I had no choice but to comply. You required my assistance." Her voice trembled at the end, and for the first time since Alex had encountered her, she appeared like a child, frightened, overwhelmed, and yearning for reassurance that she had made the right choice. Sophie's eyes returned to Alex, probing his expression as if attempting to unravel the mystery of his presence, questioning why he had chosen to follow Lily rather than simply turning away. "Did you bring her?" she inquired. Alex gave a slight nod. "She approached me," he stated plainly. "I refused to allow her to face this challenge by herself." A hint of softness flickered in Sophie's expression, yet traces of weariness lingered. She appeared to have more to express, yet fatigue and weakness held her back. Alex cast her eyes over the machines nearby, taking in the 4 attached to her arm, and the chart lying at the foot of her bed. "What's the matter?" he inquired, his tone now subdued. Sophie paused, uncertainty flickering in her mind. "The situation is intricate." "Then explain it to me," she breathed out, clearly hesitant, but ultimately murmured heart failure. "They've informed me that surgery is necessary, yet we lack the funds to proceed." Alex experienced a sudden jolt in his gut. He devoted his life to signing contracts valued in the millions, pouring resources into ventures that exceeded the cost of whole hospitals. And there she lay, the woman he had once cherished, the mother of his child, confined to a hospital bed due to her inability to afford the necessary care. Yet, she had not even sought his assistance. "I can fix that," he said, his voice unwavering. "I will address all aspects." Sophie's eyes grew a fraction larger, revealing her surprise at the unexpected turn of events. "Alex, I'm not inquiring," he cut in, his voice resolute. "This surgery is essential for you. You will receive it soon." An extended, quiet gap lingered between them. Lily gazed upward at her mother. "Please, Mom," she whispered. "Allow him to assist." Sophie glanced back and forth, her lips slightly parted as though she was on the verge of a rebuttal. Yet, in that moment, a shift occurred in her expression. She gave a slight nod. Alex let out a breath, sensing the tightness in his chest begin to fade away. He felt uncertain about the destination of this road, the revelations it might bring, or how they would even start to unravel the long years of silence that had grown between them. Yet one thing was undeniable: he was here to stay this time. Alex occupied a chair in the hospital room, keeping a watchful eye on Sophie as she slipped in and out of slumber. The burden of recent events loomed over him, saturating the space with a palpable, unvoiced strain. Lily nestled in the chair beside her mother, her tiny hand gently resting on Sophie's arm, as though she feared the moment she might release her grip. He remained unable to fully comprehend the truth of the situation. Sophie found herself in this hospital, battling her challenges. He had devoted years to his belief, while she had made the decision to leave him behind. Lily, his daughter, roamed the streets, pleading with strangers for coins, while he indulged in a life of luxury, completely unaware of her existence. The idea sent a knot of unease through him. A soft knock on the door shattered the stillness, prompting Alex to glance over as a nurse entered, clipboard in hand. She appeared weary, her scrubs a bit crumpled, yet her demeanor brightened upon spotting Lily next to her mother. The nurse spoke softly, her gaze darting to Sophie's peaceful figure, assuring that she was stable for the moment. However, without surgical intervention, her condition is bound to deteriorate further. The payment authorization has been received. Are you genuinely taking care of the expenses? Alex nodded with certainty. Absolutely anything she requires. The nurse observed him intently, as though attempting to grasp the reason behind a man clad in a costly suit suddenly stepping up for a patient in a bustling hospital. Yet she accepted it without question. Instead, she acknowledged with a nod and hastily jotted down a note on her clipboard. She assured me that everything would be handled promptly. The quicker we can proceed with her surgery, the more advantageous it will be. Thank you, Alex said, his voice softer than usual. The nurse offered him a gentle, empathetic smile before quietly exiting the room, leaving him in solitude with Lily and the rhythmic sound of Sophie's calm breathing. For an extended silence, neither he nor Lily uttered a word. She perched in a chair, her legs drawn up to her chest, her brown eyes locked onto her mother's face. In that instant, she appeared diminutive, reminiscent of a young one who had feigned resilience for far too long. Alex leaned in, propping his elbows on his knees. Lily, he spoke softly. She faced him, her look tired, as though preparing for what was to come. I wasn't aware of your existence, he confessed, his tone gruffer than he had meant it to be. Had I possessed that, the outcome would have been altered. Lily held his gaze for a lingering moment before her eyes drifted down to her hands. She spoke softly, revealing that Mom never mentioned you. Until today, your name was a mystery to me. The words pierced deeper than anticipated, yet Alex compelled himself to maintain his composure. Has she ever shared the reason with you? Lily gave a slight shake of her head. It seems she felt a sense of sorrow regarding it. I often wondered about my father, but she would always steer the conversation in a different direction. Alex let out a deep breath, his hand moving to his face in a weary gesture. He was filled with countless inquiries, yet Lily was not the one equipped to provide the answers. Sophie held the answers to the questions that haunted him. The reason for her disappearance, the secret of their daughter, and her choice to face her struggles in solitude rather than seek his support. Yet, as he gazed at Lily in that moment, he understood that all those inquiries paled in comparison to the one undeniable truth he held within him. She required his presence at this moment, and he was determined not to let her down. "May I pose a question to you?" he inquired after a brief pause. Lily gave a reluctant nod. "For how long have you been engaged in this pursuit of financial support?" She squirmed in her seat, a sense of unease washing over her. She confessed it had been a short while. Mother was unaware. I wished to spare her any concern. Alex's jaw clenched. He devoted his life to the art of negotiation in boardrooms, orchestrating deals that reached into the billions. Yet here stood his own daughter, compelled to plead for remnants as no one else had come forth to assist her. "You don't need to do that anymore," he said, his tone steady yet kind. "I have arrived. Financial concerns will no longer be a burden for you." Lily cast her gaze upon him once more. Her expression was a mystery. "Will you be staying?" The inquiry took him by surprise. He was able to perceive the deeper significance within it. The dread, the ambiguity. She had spent her entire existence without him. And now, all at once, he stood before me, weaving promises into the air. She yearned to trust him. Yet, she found no justification to believe that he wouldn't vanish just as abruptly as he had come into her life. Alex leaned in a bit, locking eyes with her directly. "Indeed," he replied without a moment's pause. "I'm here to stay." Lily remained silent for a moment. After a lengthy silence, she offered a slight nod, as though she were permitting herself to trust him, if only a fraction. That sufficed for the moment. Alex reclined in his chair, stealing another look at Sophie. She appeared so delicate in that moment, a mere echo of the vibrant woman he had once cherished. He was uncertain about how they would unravel the hurt and quiet that lay between them. Yet one thing remained undeniable. He was determined to stand by her side during this challenging time. He was determined that Lily would never believe she had to face the world alone. For the first time in his life, Alex Wallace found himself captivated by something that transcended the realm of business deals and corporate power. He was blessed with a daughter. He was determined to do everything necessary to atone for the years that had slipped away from him. Alex spent the night wide awake. He remained in the hospital room, keeping a watchful eye on Sophie and Lily, allowing the gravity of the situation to envelop him. Occasionally, a nurse would enter to monitor Sophie's vitals, tweaking the foredrip or jotting down notes on the chart positioned at the foot of her bed. With every passing moment, Alex's eyes darted to the clock, mentally tallying the hours remaining until the surgery. The anticipation stretched on indefinitely. For the first time in ages, he experienced a sense of helplessness. Lily had finally drifted off in the chair next to her mother, curled up with her knees drawn under her chin. She had attempted to resist, claiming she wasn't weary. Yet fatigue had triumphed. In slumber, she appeared even more youthful, her expression unburdened by the concerns that had accompanied her when she first came to him. The idea caused a constriction in his chest. It is unjust for any child to carry such a burden, particularly in solitude. As the first light of dawn filtered through the small hospital window, Alex finally rose and stretched, his body protesting from the long hours spent in the rigid chair. He emerged into the hallway, retrieving his phone from his pocket. He had overlooked numerous emails and disregarded calls from his assistant, his team, and his business partners. At last, everything felt inconsequential. He picked up the phone, pressing the digits with purpose as he brought it to his ear. It rang twice before a sleepy voice finally responded. "Hey Alex, do you happen to know the time?" "Text. I need you to do something for me, Mike," Alex said, brushing aside the question. Mike Henderson stood out as one of the finest private investigators Alex had ever collaborated with. He had played a crucial role in revealing everything from corporate deceit to prominent controversies. This was deeply personal. Mike let out a heavy sigh from the other end. "This isn't a matter of commerce, is it?" "No," Alex confessed. "It's about a person from my past. A person I should have discovered much earlier." Mike paused, lost in thought. Then his tone changed. What is it that you require? Alex requested all available information on Sophie Miller. Health documentation, monetary statements, her whereabouts over the past 7 years. I want to understand why she never approached me. Why didn't she ever mention Lily to me? Another moment of silence lingered before Mike finally broke it once more. Alex, are you certain you wish to pursue this path? At times, reality diverges from our desires. Alex let out a breath, his hand brushing over his face. The truth holds no significance for me. I simply require some clarity. Very well, Mike responded. I will begin my exploration. Alex ended the call and pressed his back against the wall, thoughts swirling in his head. For years, he held onto the belief that Sophie had departed of her own volition, that she had made the conscious decision to vanish from his existence. Yet, witnessing her in this state, realizing the lengths Lily had to go to in order to endure, left him feeling uncertain. A gentle voice drew him out of his reverie. You're still present. He glanced over to find Sophie observing him from the bed, her voice soft yet unwavering. Her gaze fell upon him, weary and probing, as though she were attempting to discern whether he was truly there or merely a fading figment of her imagination. Absolutely, I'm still here, Alex remarked, re-entering the room. Sophie's eyes darted to Lily, who remained peacefully asleep in the chair next to her. A whirlwind of feelings swept across her expression. Affection, sorrow, remorse. She shared all the details with you, didn't she? Alex drew the chair nearer to the bed and settled into it, his gaze fixed intently on hers. Not everything, he remarked. It's clear to me now that my arrival was long overdue. Sophie averted her gaze, her fingers clenching the delicate hospital blanket. She confessed that this was not how she envisioned it. I never intended for you to discover it like this. Alex leaned in, his tone soft yet resolute. So what was your plan for me to discover this, Sophie? Or was I never meant to? She momentarily shut her eyes, then turned her gaze back to him. I believed I was making the right choice, she murmured, her voice almost inaudible. Upon discovering I was expecting, a wave of fear washed over me. You were establishing your business, carving out your identity. I worried that sharing this with you would make you feel cornered, as if you had to decide between your aspirations and our relationship. Alex tightened his jaw, battling to maintain control over his feelings. You don't have the right to make that choice for me, he said, his tone more cutting than he meant it to be. You don't have the authority to determine that I wouldn't have wanted to be present. Sophie recoiled just a bit but chose not to contest it. I understand, she murmured. I understand that now. Yet in those days I was still quite young. I made a foolish mistake. I believed I was safeguarding you. And then, when the challenges arose, when I felt the urge to connect, I persuaded myself it was too late, that you had already moved on. Alex let out a deep breath, massaging his temples. Sophie, I would have gone to great lengths. I would have looked after you both. I know, she repeated, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. However, by the moment I came to that understanding, I found myself at a loss for how to remedy the situation. Silence lingered in the air, heavy with unexpressed thoughts and the weight of years gone by. At last, Alex turned to her, his tone unwavering. Still possible at this moment. Sophie blinked, her gaze lifting to meet his. Excuse me? I'm present, he stated plainly, and I have no intention of leaving. To you, to Lily. I refuse to allow you to face this on your own any longer. Sophie exhaled unsteadily, as if the burden she had borne for years had suddenly grown unbearable. I'm not sure how to allow you to assist me, she confessed. Alex extended his hand towards hers, with a touch that was both tender and resolute. Allow me to demonstrate. After all these years, Sophie finally allowed him to stay close. She remained silent. She never mentioned that he was under no obligation to proceed with this. She nodded softly, her fingers gripping his with newfound resolve, as if, for the first time, she was opening herself up to the possibility that perhaps, just perhaps, they could face this struggle together. Alex remained by Sophie and Lily's side, while the hospital team got ready for the operation. The morning unfolded in a whirlwind of medical professionals entering and exiting, detailing procedures, monitoring vitals, and confirming that all was in order. Sophie absorbed the words, offering nods at the right moments, yet Alex sensed her fatigue beneath the surface. She had endured a lengthy battle in solitude, persevering without a single soul to support her. And now, unexpectedly, she found herself in the company of others. He pondered whether that frightened her more than the procedure itself. Lily remained steadfastly by her mother's side. She grasped Sophie's hand firmly, her tiny fingers wrapped around her mother's wrist, as if the mere act of releasing it would cause everything to unravel. Occasionally, she would steal a look at Alex, as if seeking confirmation that he remained present, that he wasn't merely another figure destined to vanish when the moment arrived. A nurse carefully maneuvered Sophie's bed toward the surgery wing. Lily clung to her mother's hand, right up to the final instant, as the doors closed behind him, enveloping them in a profound silence. The young girl remained motionless in the corridor, her gaze fixed on the doors, as though she could summon them to swing open once more. Alex knelt beside her, gently resting a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "She will be all right," he said softly. Lily gulped, her bottom lip quivering. "What if she isn't?" Alex acted without a moment's pause. "Then we shall battle for her," he declared. Together, Lily glanced at him, probing his expression for a hint of understanding. Whatever she discovered in that moment seemed to suffice, as she eventually nodded, inhaled deeply, and brushed her tears away with the back of her hand. They lingered in the waiting area, time elongating as the minutes morphed into hours. Alex had dedicated years to navigating high-stakes environments, occupying boardrooms and orchestrating negotiations involving billions. Yet this was unlike anything else. For the first time in ages, he genuinely sensed that something significant was on the line. Eventually, Lily nestled into her chair, leaning her head against his arm. Though she remained hesitant to seek solace directly, Alex was perceptive enough to grasp her unspoken need. He allowed her to remain in that position, his arm gently resting around her delicate shoulders. A recognizable voice drew him back from his musings. "Alex." He glanced upward to find Mike Henderson a short distance away, casually attired in jeans and a jacket. He must have arrived directly from his most recent assignment, and the expression on his face conveyed to Alex that he had uncovered something significant. With great care, Alex adjusted his position, ensuring that Lily remained undisturbed, then gestured for Mike to join him a short distance away. "Share your discoveries with me." Mike cast a quick look at Lily before speaking in a softer tone. He mentioned that Sophie has endured a great deal of suffering. Once she departed, she faced challenges. She flitted from one job to another, struggling to earn just enough to keep her head above water. Then, approximately 3 years prior, she fell ill. She likely sensed that something was amiss, yet lacking insurance. She postponed visiting a doctor until it was too late. Alex tightened his jaw. He believed Sophie had moved on and created a life independent of him. However, the reality was far more grim. She hadn't merely departed. She had been battling for her very existence. What held her back from seeking assistance? Alex murmured, his words barely escaping his lips, directed more inwardly than towards Mike. Mike let out a breath. Confidence. Perhaps it's fear. She believed you might not be interested in hearing from her after all this time. Perhaps she believed she could manage it by herself. Alex shook his head, his fingers combing through his hair. She ought not to have been in that position. Mike observed him intently for a moment. The past is unchangeable, Alex. However, you have the opportunity to be present at this moment. Alex nodded, his heart heavy with feelings he wasn't prepared to explore. "I shall be." Mike offered a reassuring pat on the shoulder before taking a step back. "Feel free to reach out if you require any further assistance." As Mike strolled away, Alex inhaled deeply and settled back into his seat next to Lily. She stirred a bit, yet remained in slumber. He gazed at her, sensing a change stirring within him. He devoted his entire existence to the pursuit of success, constructing an empire, persuading himself that dominance and authority were the ultimate goals. Yet nothing had ever experienced this way before. None of it had ever given him a sense of belonging. His presence extended beyond just Sophie's surgery. He was here for reasons that went beyond guilt or obligation. He was present because this was his family. For the first time, he understood precisely what he was battling for. Time slipped away. Profound stillness. With each swing of the surgical wing doors, Alex's gaze darted upward, eager for any hint of news. Lily perched next to him, silent yet clearly uneasy, her delicate fingers clutching the fabric of her sweater's sleeves. She had ceased inquiring about the duration left, as though she had come to understand that anticipation rarely offered straightforward responses. Alex had never experienced such a profound sense of helplessness before. He was a doer, a person who tackled challenges, repaired issues, and shaped results. Yet, in this frigid waiting room, he found himself utterly powerless. He had the power to approve any medical expense, to secure the finest physicians globally, yet none of that altered the reality that Sophie was undergoing surgery, and he was powerless to assist her at this moment. Lily released a soft sigh, resting her head against his arm once more. She had hardly uttered a word in the last hour, yet her mere presence served as a poignant reminder of the stakes involved. He was not merely anticipating Sophie's recovery. He lingered in anticipation of the moment when he could finally offer Lily the stability she had always lacked. At last, the doors swung open, revealing a doctor clad in surgical scrubs who emerged into view. At that moment, Alex and Lily both sat up simultaneously, their breaths momentarily halted. The doctor walked over, his demeanor composed yet earnest. He stated that the surgery went well. Sophie is doing well. She requires some time to heal, yet she has persevered. Lily gasped softly, and before Alex had a chance to respond, she enveloped him in a warm embrace. It marked the inaugural moment she extended her hand towards him. It was the initial instance she permitted herself to lower her defenses, if only for a fleeting moment. Alex enveloped her in his embrace, securing her close to him. "She's fine," he whispered. "She will be fine." Lily inhaled deeply against his shirt, her head bobbing in agreement. Fear gripped her as she whispered. "I understand," Alex replied gently. "Same here." The physician paused briefly before proceeding with the conversation. "She will soon be transferred to a recovery room. She may feel a bit dazed for some time, but you can definitely catch a glimpse of her." Lily stepped back, dabbing at her tears. "Are we ready to leave now?" Alex gazed at the doctor, who gave a reassuring nod. "She'll be making her appearance shortly." Upon their eventual entry into the room, Sophie appeared wan and weary, yet she was alert. As the door creaked open, her eyelids fluttered awake, and the first sight that greeted her was Lily hurrying to her side. "Mom," Lily whispered, clutching her hand tightly. Sophie's lips formed a faint smile. "Hello there." Her voice carried a raspy quality, yet it was imbued with warmth, and her weary eyes reflected a sense of relief. Alex lingered at the foot of the bed, observing the heartfelt reunion between his mother and daughter. In that moment, there was a profound sense of humility, a recognition of the immense love that had persevered through every challenge. Sophie's eyes finally met his, and for an extended moment, they simply stared at one another. "You truly stayed," she whispered. Alex moved in, his tone steady yet soft. "I made it clear that I wasn't leaving." Sophie exhaled unsteadily, giving a small nod. "Thanks a lot." It was more than mere appreciation for the operation or the financial support. It was for the purpose of being present, for being involved in this, for not fleeing when the reality had ultimately been revealed. Lily glanced at him, her mother's hand still clasped in hers. "We're going to be just fine now, aren't we?" Alex lowered himself next to her, locking eyes with her. "Indeed," he remarked, "we exist." His voice carried a certainty, and his mind was free of doubt. He devoted his entire existence to pursuing the notion of achievement, convinced that influence and riches would complete him. Yet, nothing had ever resonated as profoundly as this instant, being present here, aware that he possessed something genuine to strive for. He was not merely rectifying an error from earlier days. He was crafting a vision for what lay ahead. To Sophie, to Lily, for their loved ones,